Yeah, hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to our second day for the JavaScript Essentials. And in the today's session, we are going to continue from where we left yesterday. So, good evening. Just a quick check if you can hear me, if you can see me and my screen as well. So, just drop yes in the chat. And also, in today's session, we will learn about the condition statements and the functions. So this is what we did yesterday. So in our yesterday session, we just created a simple HTML file, as you can see, a very simple HTML file with just a simple text of H1 here, JavaScript here. That's it. Let me also remove this styling from here. So this is not we want. And I'm using an extension live server so that I can just see whatever is going to whatever is the output of my code in the real time. And this is where we are getting our output. And the next thing that we have to do is to open the console. So just do a right click, just go over here, inspect, and it will open a new screen for you. Here, just click on the console and you will get your console here. And we need this console for now, and after some time we are actually going to modify the things on the screen. So let me just open the big pen. So after some time we will actually modify our HTML, so you will see the output in your HTML file. You won't require the console, but for now we have to make use of this console so that we can see what is the result of the things that we are doing. All right. Yep. It's my first day. You have to watch your yesterday's stream, so then otherwise you won't get anything. Anyways, firstly, let me just tell you how you can mark your attendance. So it's very important if you want to get your certificates. So just go inside the description and you will find these all links: registration, attendance, assignment, LU coins, and certificate. All these links are actually same. They will just take you to one link. So this is what we call as a one link. Let me just sign in real quick. It will take some few seconds. You have to be already registered to our course and also enrolled. So let me just log in. Okay, enroll me here, and that's it. And you have to mark your attendance. So after every video you will get this mark attendance. Just click here and you will get this model. So how much you like this session on the scale of 0 to 10? So I like myself a lot, so I'm just going to go with 10 here. And if you're interested in our 6 months of full stack program, so accordingly just say yes or no. Right now I'm just going to drop a yes here because I am very interested, because we are giving 7,000 rupees off on our both the courses. And if you have any suggestions for us, so right now I don't have any suggestion, and just submit our attendance. So that's it. And this is how you can mark your attendance, and after the day 5 you will get your certificate link here. Okay, so if I hope you got this. It was very easy. Okay, so inside this, let me just create a variable. So how we can create a variable? Just type let. Then you should give a name for a variable. Let's just go with a, an equal sign 10 here. And after that, let me just do a quick console.log. So this is all we did yesterday, and you can see your output here. So here I'm getting 10. See, I'm getting my 10 here. That's it. But let us cover the very first topic for today, and that is that how you can just execute a small part of your code. So some condition statements, like if you just suppose if I have a condition here, console.log. Suppose if I have a variable age here with the value of 10, like this. And what I want to do, so is just imagine that this age we got from the user. So the value for this variable we got from the user. So after some time we are actually going to add something, so by which we can get the input from the user. But for now, just assume that we got this value for the age variable by the user, and that is 10. And now if the age, so what I want to do here, I just want to do a very simple thing, that if age is like more than 18, I just want to show them like you are um, like say old enough to drive. And let me just write not old enough to drive, and let me just add some emojis. cross here and check here like this. So now I have two lines, two consoles here. So this is the first console and this is the second console. And what I want to do, I don't want to execute these two lines of code. I just either want to execute this line or this line. So I don't want to basically get the output, both the outputs. But right now you can see I'm getting both the outputs. You are old enough to drive and you are not old enough to drive. And how we can just basically block a part of code from getting executing. So it's very simple. For that, we have a very specific syntax, and that is called as if and else. So for before that, before if and else, I would like to tell you about one more type of data that we have. So remember yesterday I told you like we have numbers and then we have strings like this. Then we have one more type of data which is called as Boolean. So a true or a false. These are actually called as the Boolean values. They can only be a true or a false. True or a false. That's it. They cannot be anything else than true or false. And how we can get these values? It's very, very simple. So for that, let me just do a quick console.log here. And for that, we are going to use operators. So remember yesterday we were using arithmetic operator. So it will actually give you the addition of 10 and 20. See, I'm getting a 30 here. But what if I just write here 10 is greater than 20? So this is again an operator, but this is called as a comparison operator because it will compare the two things. So 10 is greater than 20. So just tell me it is true or a false. Like obviously it's true, 10 no. So it's not true, it's false because 10 is lesser than 20, right? So we will get false here. See, we are getting a false here. And then we have less than. So 10 is less than 20, it's true. So see, I'm getting a true here. So this is a comparison operator. We have less than, then we have greater than, and also we have equal. So for that we use double equals to. So these are actually double equals to sign. So just tell me 10 is equal to 20 or not? Obviously not. It's false. So we will get a false here. See, I'm getting a false here. And if I do, let's say 10 is equals to 10. And here I'm getting true because obviously 10 is equal to 10 here. So this is what we call as comparison operator. We have one more comparison operator which is called as not equal to. So it says, so try to guess the output. So how we write this? Exclamation mark and equal sign. Exclamation mark and the equal sign. And I have some settings in my VS Code which will actually give me this special symbol. It's actually exclamation mark and the equal sign. So just tell me, 10 is not equals to 20. Is it true or a false? Just tell me 10 is not equals to true or 20. Just tell me true or a false. Let me just remove all the previous outputs. False, false. True. Yeah, exactly. It's true. Obviously, because 10 is not equals to 20. So that's why we are getting a true here. And what I'm doing here, like this is what we call as commenting. So if you just want to remove a line of code, like suppose if you have a line of code like this, and if you just want to ignore this line for a while, just put double slash in front of it, double backslash, and JavaScript is actually going to ignore this line. So it's just going to ignore this part of the code. And so that's how we can use this. This is what we call as comments. You can use these comments every time you just want to ignore some part of your code. And that's it. So these are some of the most commonly used comparison operators. And then we have something else, like say this one, console.log 9 is greater than or equal to 10. So just tell me, is it true or false? So this comparison operator will actually check if it is greater than or if it is equals to. So let me just write here, let's say 8. So I'm getting a true here. And if I write 9 and if I write 9 here, just give me the answer, like what I will get as output in this case. 9 is greater than 9. Just tell me what will be the output, true or a false? True. In this particular case, just this one is 9 is greater than 9. False. Yeah, exactly. False. So we'll get a false here. See, I'm getting a false here because 9 is not greater than 9. It's actually equal to. So you can just use this symbol. So greater than or equal to. So it will check for both the conditions. Okay, so these are the some of the comparison operators that you can use. So now let me just remove all these comparison operators. I'm pretty sure that you have the idea how to use them, how to get them. Now let's see how we can use them. So for that we have a very unique syntax. So let me just comment on all these things. So this is called as if and else. So if just write if here, if, just use round brackets after this, just put round bracket after this, and after this you have to use the curly brackets. And inside this you can write a true or a false. If I write true here, so whatever you're going to write inside this curly bracket will get executed. Hello, I am inside of if. Save it. See, it is getting executed. So just write if here. After that, just have these round brackets. Inside this you can write true or a false, and then you can have these curly brackets. And now whatever the code you will write inside the curly bracket will only execute if you have true here. As you can see, I'm getting this hello, I'm inside of it. But if I write false here, in that case, this piece of code will get ignored. As you can see, I'm getting nothing in my output here. I'm not getting anything in my output. And so for every if, we also have a else. So else is same. So for every if, you have a else. You cannot have else independently. You have to have a if to have a else here. Inside this else, let me just copy and paste this stuff. Else. So what is this else? So if you have false here, so if you are not going to execute this thing, then else do this. If this or else this, it's simple English here. So see, I'm getting hello, I'm inside of else. I'm inside of else because I have false here, because the thing I have is false here. And again, if I write true, here, it will just execute the if part. Hello, I'm inside the if. So if this or else this, but it does not make any sense to directly write true and a false here. Instead, what we write some sort of conditions. Let's say if 10 is greater than 23 in that case. So tell me, like, if this particular code here, so this is an expression. What is the expression? A part of code has a small piece of code that will result in a value. So it will result in a value true or a false. So 10 is greater than 23, which is false. So this else part will get executed. So let me just remove all this so you can see it clearly. And if I save it, see, I'm getting else here. And if I change it to something like this, I'm getting if here. So this is what we call as if and else. Yep. And one more thing. So let me just add some extra information, like that was not necessary. Let me just add it. So what is the purpose of these brackets here? These curly brackets. Actually, you don't need these curly brackets. It will work perfectly fine between these without these brackets. See, I'm getting the same output. It's not going to change anything. So then why we use those curly brackets? Because if or and else, both, if and else, both, but default will just affect a single line of code after this. So if can only affect a single line after this. If I'm going to have something else after this, let's say hello here. So this hello is not going to get affected by this if. So if by default can only affect a single line of code. So if I change it to like this, see, I'm getting inside the if also. So I'm getting this and this as well, because now I have a true here. So 10 is less than 23, which is very much true. So that is why I'm getting this one and this one as well. But if I write, let's say false here. So let me just write directly false here for now. See? So this hello is not getting affected. So if you want to affect multiple lines of code, in that case, we create a block. So to create a block, just use these curly brackets. And inside this, No matter how many lines of code you are going to write, JavaScript is going to consider that complete block as a single line. So that is the purpose we have these lines here, these blocks here. So I hope you got this. So that's why we have these curly brackets. Otherwise, you can basically, if you just have a single line after, if you can just ignore these brackets. Yep. So that's some extra information. So just tell me, like, if you're getting this, or do you want me to repeat any part of this if and else, so that we can continue to the next part. Mm, just tell me something. Okay, that's great. That's great. So no doubt so far. That's great. Okay, so you want to, which part you want me to repeat? Just also let me know that I can't able to put the attendance even after attending the OTP. OTP show mobile number already registered. Yeah, Shweta, let me just ask this to my team, and they will just contact you related to this. You just, Azim, just tell me which part of the this thing you want me to repeat. So this is a block part, or so let me just give you a quick recap. So just write if here. After this, if you can write true or a false, and then if you have a true here, whatever you're going to have inside these curly brackets will get executed. Otherwise, whatever you will have inside the else will get executed, right? And what is the purpose of these brackets? So if you have multiple lines of code after the if, in that case, just use these brackets. Otherwise, you can just have a single, you can ignore them if you just have a single line. If you just have a single line after the if, that's it. Okay. And now there's one more thing, and that is you can also provide some more conditions here. After the else, you can again write if here. You can again write some if here. So suppose let's have some condition. Let's have a variable. Let's say a b, and so if b is equal to 6, in that case just console.log d is 6. So we are just trying to recreate a situation where we have a value from the user, and we are storing that value inside the b. Later we will have a proper thing by which we can get this. Yep. And then else if if again, no, b is equals to let's say 8, in that case just show something else. And after that I'm writing this again, so you can have as many if you want. So if b is equals to 10, in that case just log out this b is 10, and else. So after this I have else here. So let me just explain you this. It's very easy. So if this is true, and then execute this so if any part of this if is going to get true, it will just execute the line after it. So whatever the block you have after this, just very straightforward. So after the else also we can have a if. After else you can also have a if, and inside this if you can again write some condition. And of what it will do, so if you have a true here, so if you encounter a true here, it will just run this line. Otherwise it will move to the next part, and here we again have some condition. So we can see that, but as you can see it's very messy, right? So we don't use these kind of ways. And anyways, if none of these condition is true, like if it is also false, it is also false, and if it is also false, so in that case it will just execute this else part. So for this we have a better way to write this. So let's suppose if I have some 12 here. So see, I'm getting b is not 6, 8, or 10. So there's a better way to write this, and it's again one more way by which we write the conditions, and which is called as switch statements. So how we write such a statement? So for that, I'm just going to convert this if and else into a new way, which is called as switch statements. So anytime you will see some kind of situation like this, so if you have multiple if and else, you can go use this one. So just type here switch here, just type switch. So it's a keyword. You have to use the switch. After the switch, just use these brackets. And inside this, you have to write the variable. You have to just write the variable against which you are checking for the condition, and which is b for now. Okay. So, and after this, you have to create a bracket here like this, curly brackets. And then inside this, you can mention some cases. So you can have some multiple cases, like you can have case if it is equals to 6. Yeah, so this is our case here. So switch round brackets, inside this just write the variable, then have just a case here, case. Now after this, just use the colon, just the colon, and just write use the curly brackets here, and just write whatever you want to write here like this. And then you can have many cases, like case if it is equals to 8, then again you can have case like this 10, and like this console.log 10 here. So actually I'm converting this if and else code to this switch statement. So I'm converting this if and else to this switch statement. And then you can have a very special case which is called as default. So what is this default? If none of the condition from the top is going to get successful, like so in that case we'll get this output here. So now let me just recap all this what I have written. So I'm just going to remove this if and else. We don't need this anymore. So now let's just see what is this if and else here. So, sorry, switch case. So just type switch, and after this, use the variable against which you want to check for the condition. Then you can have as many cases you want. So case 6, that means if a b is equals to 6, in that case, just execute this code. Otherwise, just check for this case here. If it is a b is equals to 8, in that case, just execute this condition, and it will continue till here. And what is this default? What is this default? So if none of the case is true, if none of the case is true, it will just execute this default case here. So if I'm just going to give it a save, I'm getting this default case which says b is not 6, 8, or 10 here. So which actually says yeah, I will use the break. Wait for a minute. Okay. Now let me just change the value of the b. Or let me just change the value of the b to 10 here. Okay. So now the value of b is 10. So that means this case will get true. So this thing will get executed. So let me just give it a save. So see the output. And yep, I'm getting B is 10 in my console here. But as you can see, I'm also getting this output, which says B is not 6, 8, or 10. So I'm also getting this output. So it's little weird. So let me just also try with 8. Okay, so in the case of B is if B is 8 here, so obviously I'm getting this B is 8, but I'm also getting B is 10, and I'm also getting B is not 6, 8, or 10. So I'm also getting this line. So why this is happening? So this is a problem with this switch here, and the problem is once it will find a true case, it will actually execute everything after that. So it will execute this line, and this line as well. So if I'm going to write 6 here, if I'm going to write, let's say 6 here, like this. So in this case, it will execute the case 1, because obviously this is the case which is true. Then it will also execute the second case, third, and the fourth. Everything after that it will execute. And it just have a very simple fix. All you have to write here is a break. So after these conditions, just write a break here like this, and that's it. So now you can see our problem is solved. So what is this break? So as soon JavaScript will see this break, it will actually stop the switch statement there. So as soon as it will see the break, it will actually come outside of the switch statement. So don't forget to put break, otherwise you will get some weird outputs. And inside the default, I don't need any break. Just tell me the reason why I don't need any break in the default here. Sir, can you use the statement without using curly brackets? Yeah, exactly. You can use it like without the curly brackets also. It's very much possible, but curly brackets makes things little more neat and clean. So I'll prefer you to go with the brackets so that you can understand. So here also you don't need the brackets, but I use brackets so that you can basically make these things. Okay, yeah, exactly. Because we don't need any break here because we don't have any case after this. So that's the reason. Okay, so now we have covered the conditional statements, and let me just write this thing here. So now, what is the code I have written here, which says we have a variable age, and we are actually going to get the input from the user, and it says if age is greater than 18, greater than or equal to 18, in that case, we will just show the output. You are old enough to drive. Otherwise, we are just going to say you're not old enough to drive, and that's it. See, I'm getting you're not old enough to drive, and if I make it, let's say 22, I'm getting you are old enough to drive. That's it. So we have already covered the conditional statements, and now let's move to the next part, which is called as a functions. So what is a function? If you just want to repeat a part of a code or a small program. So what is a function here? So we are going to learn about functions. Functions. So what is a function? Function is actually a small program then that you can create inside your program, and the program you can run any as many times you want. But before that, let me just fix one thing. So far, we were actually writing our JavaScript inside our HTML. So it will be better to have a separate file for all this. So how you can do this? Just create a separate file here in your same folder. Just create a new file with any name you want. So I'm just going to go with a very generic name, script, and just use the extension .js. So you just have to keep in mind that it should end with .js. Yep, script.js. So it's very important. And now the next thing inside this, you can write all of your JavaScript. So let me just write hello from script.js for now. Now the very next thing we have to do is somehow we have to connect this JavaScript file with our HTML file, like we used to do for the CSS. So it's actually same. So let's see how we can do that, how we can connect our JavaScript file with our HTML file. Yeah, we will see that Superman. अभी थोड़ा ये हो जाए, पहले basics cover हो जाए. So it's very simple. All you have to do is inside this script tag. So let me just do this. Just go over here and type src and equal to, and just name the file that you want to connect. So script.js like this, and now save it. And as you can see, I'm getting the output here, hello from script.js. And from now, we're going to write all of our JavaScript into a separate file. So it's much more clean to write all of your JavaScript in a separate file, like we were doing for the CSS. Yeah, it will execute last. Yeah, that's how you always put this in the last. Okay, so do you want me to repeat any part of the things that we have done so far? Just tell me. Or we can move to the next topic, which is functions. Okay, that's great. How to do is otherwise, like how to it otherwise. I couldn't understand. How to link? Yep. So it's very simple. Just create a new file. Just create a new file here with any name, but just keep in mind that it should end with .js. And then inside this, you can write all of your JavaScript code, whatever the code you want to write for your JavaScript. And then inside index.html, inside your HTML file, we need to connect it somehow. So in the script tag that you're seeing here, in the script tag, instead of writing JavaScript inside of it, you can just use the attribute src, and just give it a value of the file that you want to connect it with. So here I'm just writing script.js, and that's it. No, we don't have to use relations here, and we don't use relations. So that is a different thing. Ternary operator. Yeah, we will cover that later. Next topic. We will cover that as the time comes. Okay. So now the next topic is functions. So what is a function? Suppose I have a task to add two numbers. Suppose I have a variable a 20 here and another variable uh, b 30 here for no reason. And if I just want to add these, so if I just do console.log, I have to add these two like this, a plus b, and I will get something like this 50. And then I have so much of task to add something. So this whole program is all about addition. Let me just write a here, then have b, then have something like this. So I have these kind of situation where I am actually doing a lot of addition. So instead, and as you can see, I'm repeating myself a lot. I'm doing this addition again and again. In this particular situation, a repetition is very small. We are actually just repeating a single line of code. But eventually, when you will create a very big application, you will have 1,000 lines of code. In that code, you'd never want to repeat yourself, because you obviously you don't want to write 100 lines of code again and again. So far we just in this small example, we just have a single line of code, that is what we are repeating. But in a real world application, you will have hundreds of lines of code. So, and we have a principle in programming which we call as dry principle, which says don't repeat yourself. So how we can prevent this repetition? It's very simple. What we are actually going to do, we will be creating a function. So what is a function? It's a small program. So let's first see how we can create a function. So for that, just type function like this, function functions. Actually, there are different ways in JavaScript by which you can create the function, and this is one of the way. It's the easiest one. So just type function here, and after this you have to give a name to your function, and name can be anything. So let me just go with my function like this, function. You can give any name to your function that you want, but the rules are like same as for the variable. You cannot use any special symbol like this here. It's not allowed, and you can also not have any spaces inside your function name. So these are the basic things. And after this, you have to use this round brackets like this. And after this, you have to use the curly brackets. It's mandatory. So now we have created our function. Inside this function, you can write anything that you want. You can have some conditional statements. You can just have some console.logs, or you can have some variables. So let me just create a variable const a 10 and const b 20. Now I'm just going to log out here summation of a and b here, a and b. And let me also write something. Let's say one more console here, console.log function, and let's just remove this one. Okay, so we have actually created a function. Let me repeat myself. Just write here function keyword, it's necessary, then a function name. After this, just have round brackets, and after that, you have to make use of this curly brackets. It's important to use these curly brackets here. Inside this curly brackets, you can write anything you want, any valid JavaScript is actually going to work inside of this, and then just save it. As you can see in your output, you are seeing nothing. You're not getting anything in your output. What is the reason? Actually, once you have created your function, you also have to call this. So how we can call a function? So it's very easy. Just type the name of the function, and after this, use the round brackets. So here we have declared the function. So this is what we call as declaration of the function. And here we are actually calling the function. And once you call a function, whatever code you have written inside this function will get executed. So if I, let's say, if I just give it a quick save, and as you can see, I'm getting 30 and a function. So obviously this will be the output for this code here, a b console.log a and b here, and I'm getting a function. So that's why I'm getting 30 and a function. I think the spelling of function is very much wrong. CTIUN. Okay, so yeah, we will see how we can get the input from the user. Right now, I'm not telling you how to get the input of the user from the user, because it will actually it will be little difficult for me to explain and for you to understand. To get the output, we actually use prompt, and also actually we use the input field. So in JavaScript we have an input field. So we create an input field, and then from there we get the input. So for that we have to learn something, some more stuff, actually the object, and then we can actually do this. So I think in the tomorrow session or by the end of today we can do that. Okay. And the fun part is you can call your function as many times you want. So I'm just calling my functions 4 times here. One, two, three, 4. And it will just execute the same code here 4 times. It will just repeat the same code 4 times. See, 1 time, 2 time, 3 time, and the 4 time here. So this is how we can use make of functions. So in JS, can we start code without anything like Python? Yeah, you can just start your code and it actually don't need anything. Can we use break? Like where we want to use make of this break? You don't need any break in the function. It's very simple here. A legit tutorial. Just increase the video quality from here. So just go over here, and from here you can increase the video quality to 1080p, and it will just increase the video quality. Okay. Loops and its types. Jay, we will see the loops in the tomorrow session, not today. Okay. Yeah, we can return. So we'll just see how we can return something. Okay, so now let me quickly recap everything. So how we can create a function? Just type the function keyword, the name of your function, then just create use these round brackets. Inside this, you can write all the code that you want to be have inside your function, and then you can call your function like this. Now let's see the next thing. As you can see here, like every time you call this function, it is just actually going to add these two numbers. So while calling a function, you can also pass some initial values to a function. So some values the function can use. So some, suppose you want to some initial things, some data or anything like that to a function, that is very much possible by using something called as parameters and the argument. So how I can pass something to this function? So inside this bracket here, so when you call your function, inside this bracket you can pass any value. Actually you can pass as many values you want, but for now let me just pass a single value. Let's say 100, and just give it a save. So this time I'm not only calling my function, I'm also giving it some initial value, which is 100 here. But as you can see, there's no difference in the output, because you are actually passing the value, but your function is not accepting any value here. And to accept a value here, as you can see here, you have to basically mention something else, some a variable here. So what I will do here, let me just write a. Okay, and let me just do a quick console.log for the a. So let's see what I have actually written here. So now what will happen, so every time I will call my function, I will pass a value inside of it, and this value will actually get stored inside this variable a. So now this a is a very special kind of variable, and it is what we call as a parameter. So it is a parameter. So a parameter is just a variable which will store the values that user or you are actually going to pass to this function when you will call it. So if I'm going to give it a save, as I can see, I'm getting 100 here. So every time I'll just call this function with any random value, I'm getting that value here. So what is happening here? So at line number 5, so when I called my function with the value 100, so now this a have the value 100 inside of it, and then inside my function I'm just doing simple console.log for the a. So that's why I'm getting 100 here. And the next time I was calling my function, I was passing this value, weird value, and this time this weird value got stored inside this a, and console.log a. So I'm getting this thing here. So and that's only not the complete story. You can also have multiple values. So suppose this function can accept two values. So for that you have to specify two parameters. So it's very simple. Just have two variables and just separate these variables with a comma. So with a comma, just separate these two variables. Now, every time you will call your function, you can basically have two arguments here. So the values that you pass here, is what we call as an argument. So we call them as argument here. So these are the arguments that you pass to a function when you call them, and this is what we call as the parameter here. So what I will do here, so let me just pass, let's say 200, and let me remove this thing. And see, I'm getting 100 and the 200. So the order is very much important here. So the A is going to have the value of 100, and B is going to have the value of 200. So the order is very very much important here. Okay. Okay, can we can both the variables are different data types? Yes, both the data can be of the different types like this. So any value you can pass. It doesn't matter what is the value you are passing. It's very much available. This- no, you don't have to declare anything. It's very simple. Just write the names here. You don't have to specify any declare or something. Just write any name and it will do the trick. Okay. Could you say when to use the comma? Yes, yes. I have already told you yesterday that it's not necessary to use the semicolons in JavaScript. The only time you actually require to use semicolon when you are actually writing code like this. So when you're writing code like this in a single line, in that case you require the semicolon. So like this. Otherwise, you can basically skip the semicolon. Actually, my VS Code is automatically applying the semicolon every time I save. So it is not me who is applying this semicolon. It's VS Code which is doing this automatically. Can we have a function inside of a function? Yeah, you can have a function inside of a function, Durga. Jay Patel, can you explain the arrow function? I'll try my best to explain this. So let's see what is the time here. So either we will do this today, or obviously I will cover the arrow functions. The thing is, first we need to cover the basics. If I don't cover the basics, most of the student will actually feel like what is happening. So we have to start very from low, and then we'll gradually increase the level. So that is the thing. Okay. Can you use, I think have given the answer for this one. Okay. It automatically applied this. Mm, mm, mm. For the auto completion. I'll just tell you what are the extension I'm using after some time. Yeah. So these are the things about the function. And now what I will do this time, I'll just pass two values here like this. And I'm just going to do a console.log for A and the B. And now this function is going to give me the addition of the values that I'm going to pass inside of this. So suppose you can write any code here, like anything will work actually. So let's say in this particular code, what this code is actually doing. So it's, let me just rename this to sum. So we have actually created a sum function. So you can call this function. You just need to pass some values inside of it, and it will just give you the result as the summation of these two numbers here, like this. So every time you call this function, you will get the addition of these numbers, and it's very very simple. So the second time I called this, so B got this value, A got this value, B got this value, and inside this I'm just doing simple A and B, A plus B, and that's it. It is possible to take two inputs from the user, and yeah, Pranjali, that is very much possible. So let me just show you how you can get the input. Yeah, obviously, Faizan Khan, we are going to cover the DOM. So there's one more thing which is left for the function. So we will just cover that later because most of the queries are related that how we can get the input in the JavaScript. So let's just do this so that you can have some idea. So you will stop asking me. So this is how we get the input. So there are two ways actually. So I'm not going to cover the first way because we never use it. So inside our HTML, just create an input field like this. Input field like this, and just give it a save. So now I have an input field. Let me just give it a placeholder. Let's say value 1 like this. And let me just also create another input field value 2. And let's have a h1 here, and which will actually say as result like this. Yeah. And let me just add here some. Okay, and just give it a save. Now I have to give it some ID. So value 1, And just don't ask me like if you're not getting anything. Don't worry, we will cover all this. So I'm just giving you a quick demo that how we can get the inputs and all. And this one actually going to be the result. Okay. Now I have created three elements here, two input fields and one H1. Now inside my JavaScript, what actually I can do, I can get the access for these elements. I can actually get the access for these elements inside my JavaScript. So for that, we have to make use of something called as document dot get element by ID. And inside this, we just need to have the what we say uh the id of the element. And I think I forgot to add a button here, so let me just also add a button, uwn, and another button here which will say add, like this. So I also have a button here, and let me also give it an id of add. Okay, so this is actually a way by which you can get the access for the element. So just type document dot get element by ID, and here you have to write the ID. So we have many different ways by which we can get the access for these elements, and this is one of the way. We will actually cover all this in the fourth day, or the I think on the we will cover this on the fourth day, and then we can store this inside some variables like this. Input, sorry, input val1. Let me just repeat this for the two. Okay, and here we have it. And let me just also get the button here. So here I'm also getting the button. So now I'm getting the access for this button. And what I will do here, so I'm setting up an event listener. So this is what we call as an event listener. So again, we will do this on our fourth day, but I'm just showing you a demo like because I was getting so much of questions related to this. So this is I'm setting up an event listener. So every time you will click on this add, this particular function will get executed. And inside this function, I'm just going to write here like this, and let me just get the result here. Document dot get element by ID. I think it's the result. And you can also update the anything inside your screen by this inner text. Okay, let me just remove this sum. I don't need this sum code here. For now, inner text to be like this. So by this, we have actually created a calculator here. So I can just add some numbers here, and I can do this. See? So this is how we take the input. So now user can basically give any input. Let's say 999 multiplied, add, let's say 100,000 here. Click on add, and you are getting the add. Sorry, I forgot to parse it. Parse it. Parse it here. Okay. Let's say 999 and 1000, and if I add, I'm getting the output here. So this all we will actually do after some time on the fourth day, because obviously as you can see, there's so much of things which we haven't covered yet, which is this object by getting this dot, and then this document thing, and how we can set up an event listener. So these are the things that we have to cover. And to know more about this, we have to cover the basics first. So that is how we can use functions, and how we can use the objects and all. So I think, yeah, the basics of C programming stored in a variable. Yes, yeah, we will cover all these things. Okay, so let's back to the function, because as I told you, unless we cover the basics, it will be very impossible for you to understand the cool things. Okay, so let me just come back to that function thing. Let's just wrap it this the function, which actually we just need to cover one more thing related to the function, and then we can move to the next part. A plus b here, and I'm just calling this sum with some values. And so a plus b, we also have to pass the second parameter, and this is okay. And I'm getting this. So as you can see, I'm using this console to get the output, because we cannot update the screen. If I want to update the screen, then I have to write that line of code, and that will basically increase the confusion. So that's why we generally use this console.log, just to recreate a situation that we are getting the output on the screens. So that's why we use these kind of things here. And the numbers here, so every time I say that, suppose we are getting this input from the user, suppose we are getting this. So why I'm telling you this, so suppose we can so after this we will get this thing from the user. For now we are just to make things very easy, we are just doing this. Yeah. And yeah, so this is how we create a function. Just type the function keyword, your name, and then a function can accept something called as parameters. So you can write as many parameters you want. If you want to, if you can add one more parameter here like this, and you can add one more number here. So the order is very much important here, because A will actually store this first number, B will store the second number, and C is going to store this third number. Even though we are not using the C inside of our code, but you can get this thing. And let me just also add this here like this, and I'm getting this thing. But there's one more thing, that a function not only can accept some values, it can also return some values. So by this I mean, after a function you can just write return here, and you can return any value from a function like this. And as you can see, the output is not at all changing. So let me just make it simple things. As you can see here, nothing is actually changed. So this time our function sum is going to return. So just type return here. So it's again a keyword. Just type the return, and after that you can just write any value that you want to return. And the very next thing is that you cannot see any difference here. So to get so if a function is going to return something, then we also have to catch it, we have to store that value. So this, when you call this sum function, it is actually returning us the value 10 here. So but we are not actually storing that value, so that's why we are not getting this. So it's very simple. Just to store a value, just create a variable like this. You can name this variable anything. So I'm just naming this variable res. By the way, you could have given it any name here. And if I do a console.log for this res here, and you will see that it is having the value 10. But you can also return a string as well. So now every time you will call this function sum, it's going to return you this hello. You can see it's returning us this string hello. And it is returning us this string hello, and we are storing that thing inside this res variable, and then we are doing the console.log, and we are getting this hello here. So a function can also return some value. So instead of returning this random thing, why don't we just return a proper thing here? So inside my function, I'm going to add these two things, a b and
Excuse me, sir.
c, and
So
yeah.
your voice is not clear. It's breaking.
Okay, voice not clear. It's breaking. Just give me 1 second. Let me just connect my headphones. Okay, so now my audio is clear. वॉइस बंद हो गया, अभी मैं रीस्टार्ट किया है क्योंकि
Yes,
जस्ट
sir.
डू लेट मी नो.
Now it's good.
ओके. So where were we? Yeah. So a function can also return something. So this time we are going to return this string hello world, and every time you call a function, so this function every time you will call this, it will actually return you this. So we have to store it inside some variable like this res, so that we can make use of it. But instead of returning this random thing hello world, what instead I'll do, I'll just create a variable inside this function result, which will actually have the value a plus b plus c, and then we will return this variable from here. So when you return a variable, you are actually returning the value from that variable. So this result is going to have the value which is equals to a plus b and c, which will be 1 plus 2 plus 3, which will be 6. So this result is 6, and then we are returning this result. So actually we are returning the value inside this variable, which is 6 here. So now this function is going to return us this value 6, and now this result have the value 6, and that is what we are getting in our output. So a function can also return some values like this here. So let me just write this as well and this as well. Let me just fix the volume here. Yeah, and if I save it, see, so actually this is the last part of the function. So and let's just make it 250 for now, and I'm getting the 550. So that's it about the function is just a small piece of program, and the fun part is actually you can write any code here. So let me just create a function check age here, and this will just take a single argument age parameter, sorry, and it will just see if the age is greater than equals to 18. In that case it will just log out something, console.log here, you are an adult, and otherwise console.log you are a minor. And I can just call this function with any age, let's say 22, and I'm getting this output here, and I can call this with any number I want, and I'm just going to get the proper output here. See, so I've created so no, I don't want to repeat this part of code. So suppose if you're creating a government website where you want to check for the age again and again, so just create a function to check the age, and you just need to pass the number here, and it will just get you the result. Suppose you can create a function to calculate the taxes, you can create a function to send a message, you can create a function to play a video, and you can just call that function and that will do the trick for you. Yep. And now before so in the tomorrow session we will actually cover about the arrays object and document, so how we can modify the HTML, and how obviously we will also see how we can get the value from the HTML, and also loops. So there are some things that we have that are still left, but before that let me just tell you, like, we are offering 7,000 rupees off on our all the courses. So you can see our courses, which is data science and for the full stack development. So just visit our website and you will get this the link here, I think. Yeah, here, just click here on, you can generate, or you can just visit our website and just use the coupon code refer20 to get 7,000 rupees on our courses, and it will take the prices below 30,000, less than 30,000, and it will cost you less than 30,000. And in this much money you will actually get 6 months of full stack program for the data science or for the web development. You will learn about so many cool things, and we will also ensure that you will get placed after this course. So we will basically train you for the interview. We are going to create more than 15 project. You will get every day 90-minute of classes with the industry experts. So you are actually going to be get trained by the industry actors, not the teachers, like proper trainers you will have, and 90 minutes every day for next 6 months. And we will also arrange interviews for you with our partner companies, and it will actually change your life. And if you have someone in your around you who actually want to pursue the software engineering or the development, then you can refer the course to them, and on every refer you will achieve some prize money. For the first refer you will get 2,000 rupees or a wireless keyboard mouse, and on your 8th refer you can have MacBook Air or 80,000 rupees in cash. So just click here the copy refer code and you can share this referral with your friends. And that's it for this session, and I will see you tomorrow. In the tomorrow session we will cover the more things related to JavaScript. Okay, so bye bye and take care.